This is how she acts when she knows she's lost you. She won't cry in front of you. She'll pretend she doesn't care. She'll post like she's winning. She'll laugh louder around others. But inside, she knows you slipped through her fingers. And that truth, it haunts her. She had you, then lost you. And now, everything changes. Let's talk about what she does. And more importantly, what you must do next. Comment. I reclaim my power. Number 1. She acts cold first. She begins by withdrawing, not because she's over you, but because she's scared she's losing the grip she once had on your mind, and her pride won't allow her to show it. She shifts her tone, cuts back on responses, and becomes distant, not from peace, but from fear of being exposed as someone who never truly valued you until your attention stopped coming easily. She convinces herself she's still in control, but her behaviors betray her. You notice she no longer asks about your day, no longer leans in during conversations, no longer shows warmth, and it hits you like a quiet betrayal. You don't know whether to confront her or mirror her indifference, but something inside tells you that chasing her will only confirm her belief that you'll never leave. She posts pictures online with more skin, more smiles, more staged happiness, each post more desperate than the last for someone to notice, especially you. But it's not real, it's not growth, it's deflection. She wants to hurt you before you can show her that she already lost you. And the worst part, she still thinks she holds the power. She thinks because you once bent your values to keep her around, that you'll do it again. But something has changed inside you. You've seen behind the curtain. You've tasted the loneliness that comes from loving someone who only loves your attention, not your soul. You start to see the silence not as punishment, but as permission to rebuild, to reflect, to reclaim the parts of yourself you lost while trying to be enough for someone who never appreciated your presence. And you realize the coldness she shows now is nothing compared to the emotional coldness you endured when you were still trying to make things work. Her cold behavior isn't strength. It's the collapse of control disguised as indifference. She doesn't know how to process your detachment because she never expected you to grow out of the leash she quietly wrapped around your emotions. And the moment you stop reacting, stop justifying, stop checking in, that's when her ego starts to panic. She begins to wonder if you've finally seen your own worth. And this is your moment, not to retaliate, not to hurt her, but to choose yourself without shame. Because she acts cold, thinking it will provoke you into chasing. But when you respond with grounded stillness, with focus on your goals, with detachment rooted in self-respect, she realizes she no longer has access to the version of you that once begged for breadcrumbs. And that loss, that realization, is something no post, no rebound, no fake glow-up can fix. She might text you a cold message, pretending to be unaffected, but her hands shake before hitting send. She might walk past you with an arrogant smile, but her mind replays every time she dismissed your efforts. And the test you face now is whether you will hold your frame or fold back into the illusion she crafted for you. You must understand that the world will not applaud your decision to walk away from someone you loved. People will assume you're bitter, that you didn't try hard enough. But you know the truth. You tried in silence. You gave beyond your limits. And now you choose peace over performance. Every time she acts like you don't matter, she's hoping you'll break and chase her again. But real growth happens when you don't need closure, when you don't need recognition, when you move on not to prove a point, but because your time is sacred. Apply this in every area of life. Cut off relationships that drain you, leave spaces that no longer feed your spirit, and show up for yourself in ways no one else ever did. Stop explaining your value to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. She acts cold now, but she will remember you in the quietest hours of her life. When she's with someone who doesn't listen, she'll remember how you paid attention. When she's crying alone, she'll remember the man who wiped her tears without her asking. And when she finally realizes that your silence was not weakness but strength, it will be too late. Your new life won't have room for people who couldn't handle the version of you that was still learning. You rise not by seeking revenge, but by mastering your response. Let her act cold. You build warmth within yourself. You stay on your mission. You keep writing those goals down and breaking them into steps. You set your alarm earlier. You hit the gym not to attract her, but to earn your own respect. You read, you build, you discipline your emotions like a soldier disciplines his training. Because when a man stops chasing and starts becoming, everything changes. Your presence becomes rare. Your time becomes expensive. Your attention becomes sacred. And the same people who dismissed you will either watch from a distance or try to come back, pretending they always believed in you. Don't entertain that. Stay focused. Her coldness is temporary, but your growth must be permanent. She had access to you before the transformation. She lost that right when she chose pride over partnership. And now you give no explanations. You give no warnings. You just evolve. Keep your circle tight, your habits sharp, and your vision clean. Don't chase closure. Build clarity. Don't seek her apology. Live in such a way that it's no longer needed. You are not the same man she left. And the fact that she acts cold now only proves how much heat you brought into her life. You move forward not to show her what she lost, but to finally give yourself what you deserve. And that's why you no longer explain yourself to people who dismissed your worth when you were still becoming. Now that you're focused on your growth, your peace, and your future, you need structure. Principles that won't fail you the way people have. That's exactly why I created the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, a life-changing book built for men who are done playing games and ready to lead themselves with strength, clarity, and calm. It's packed with timeless Stoic principles designed to help you navigate relationships, emotions, and self-worth from a position of power, not need. And now, it's available in audiobook format, so you can listen to it while walking, running, driving, or simply sitting in silence, reclaiming your mind. Ask yourself, how long will you keep searching for answers in confusion when you could have the blueprint in your pocket forever? You own it for life, no subscriptions, just pure grounded wisdom every time you need to reset. The link is in the comments. Number 2, then she gets confused. When she senses you're not coming back, confusion begins to eat away at the certainty she built on your pursuit, and she starts questioning every move she made, not because she misses you as a man, but because she misses being the center of your world, and now she has to face the unfamiliar feeling of being irrelevant in your life, something her ego was never prepared for. And it's not love that brings the confusion. It's the loss of control she used to hold over your emotional state, over your time, over your reactions. And now that you've stepped away, she watches you differently, analyzes your silence, interprets your calmness, scrolls through your pages hoping to find a hint that you're still watching her, still stuck in the same emotional loop she walked away from thinking you'd never escape. And she gets confused, not because she's lost affection, but because you're no longer behaving the way she trained you to. You're not responding to her cues. You're not reaching out when she disappears. You're not chasing when she withdraws. And in that stillness, in that shift, she starts to see a version of you she no longer understands. And that terrifies her because it means her influence over you is dying, and she's not used to watching something she once controlled slip away with nothing to stop it. And during this stage, she plays a lot of games. But they're not the fun kind, they're the desperate kind masked as confidence. The late-night likes on your old posts, the random views on your stories, The text messages sent with fake reasons, like asking about something she could have Googled, because what she really wants to know is if she still matters. And the answer she fears the most is the one you're not giving her: silence, detachment, indifference. Because in her mind you were supposed to break, you were supposed to crack and beg for the attention she used to throw around like scraps. And now that you're not doing that, she's pacing mentally. She's reviewing everything you ever said, trying to decode whether you were serious, whether you're really gone, whether you found someone else or worse, whether you finally found peace. And peace is the one thing she can't compete with, because she used to be your peace. Or at least she believed that lie until your distance revealed that you function better without the chaos she brought into your life. And when she sees you calm, focused, improving without needing her, confusion turns into anxiety, and she starts projecting her guilt onto your silence, assuming you're trying to get back at her, when the truth is, you're not playing any games anymore. You've simply grown tired of playing a role in a script that never had a happy ending for you. And while she spirals inside trying to understand your behavior, you must not interrupt that process, because her confusion is the doorway to her accountability. And if you re-enter that space too early, you rob her of the lesson she desperately needs to learn: that a man who values himself will not wait around to be noticed, and your value isn't negotiable just because she's now unsure of her decisions. And this is where your stoicism becomes your shield. Not coldness, not bitterness, just a disciplined refusal to respond to emotions that no longer align with your direction. Because if you truly want transformation, you can't keep revisiting places where you were once emotionally starved. And this phase of confusion is her last attempt to recapture your attention through indirect tactics, breadcrumbing, and subtle manipulation. And if you fall for it, you reset your healing and restart the loop. But if you stay grounded, if you hold frame, if you keep building and stay busy with your progress, she will begin to realize she's no longer the sun in your sky, and that realization will either break her pride or change her entirely. And neither outcome is your responsibility to manage. And while she sits with that confusion, you must stay committed to the path that made you unrecognizable to her in the first place, the path that turned your pain into purpose, the path that taught you to live with intention rather than emotion. And now you walk like a man who doesn't need validation from anyone who didn't value you in the first place, and every unanswered message, every ignored sign, every second you don't react to her energy shifts becomes another silent message that you've outgrown her games. And this is how you take your power back, not by becoming bitter or spiteful, but by becoming untouchable to those who once overlooked your worth. And she gets confused because she thought your world revolved around her, and now you don't even flinch when she exits a room. And that inner shift can't be faked. It has to be built through real introspection, through asking yourself the hard questions. Why did I give so much to someone who gave me so little? Why did I stay in a space that kept draining me? Why did I wait for someone to see me when I could have been seeing myself all along? And when you confront those truths, you begin to operate from clarity, not confusion. And while she's stumbling through her uncertainty, trying to figure out if she still has a role in your story, you must be too busy rewriting your next chapter to care. And this is how you protect your energy, not by building walls, but by raising standards, not by proving points, but by living a life that doesn't entertain anything that doesn't match your peace, your pace, or your purpose. And when she feels that gap between who you used to be and who you've become, she'll finally understand that losing you wasn't just about losing a man. It was about losing access to the version of herself that only existed when she had your attention. And she gets confused because she doesn't recognize herself anymore, because her reflection no longer shines through your validation. And in that realization, you become a lesson she never expected to learn. One that teaches her the cost of indifference, the price of pride, and the truth that no woman, no matter how desired, is above being forgotten when a man decides to value his peace more than her presence. And now you move forward, not for revenge, not for attention, but because you finally remembered who you are when no one's trying to change you. And in doing so, you break free from cycles that kept you chasing things that were never meant to be yours. And this is how you reclaim yourself, not through her confusion, but through your clarity. Number 3. She starts remembering you differently. She doesn't realize what you meant when she had your presence on demand, because back then she confused your consistency for convenience, your loyalty for weakness, and your patience for a lack of options. And now that you've removed yourself from her orbit and recentered your energy on becoming the man she always claimed she wanted, but never respected when you were right there in front of her, her memories begin to rewrite themselves without your permission, because she starts remembering you, not as the man she took for granted, but as the man who gave her something real in a world addicted to validation and temporary excitement. And what used to feel ordinary to her now feels rare, and the same things she overlooked. The messages you sent to check in, the way you tried to solve problems with calm solutions instead of emotional chaos. The times you listened when she vented and didn't try to one-up her pain. The little things like how you remembered details about her life she forgot herself. All of that returns to her mind not as random thoughts, but as sharp reminders of what she no longer has access to. And she doesn't just remember the things you did. She remembers how she felt around you, and that feeling becomes harder to replicate with every new person she entertains, because no one sees her the way you did. No one offers the stability she once called boring, until she realized that the thrill she chased came with emptiness, with drama, with confusion. And now she begins to regret, not because she loves you, but because you were her emotional anchor, her safety net, her guaranteed source of attention. And now that you're no longer reachable, she's forced to sit with her decision, and the guilt starts to grow. But it hides behind ego, so she won't say sorry. She won't admit she was wrong. She'll just start remembering you more often, at night, in silence, in moments when she's alone, even in a crowd, because while others try to impress her with surface-level charm, she realizes no one else really tried to understand her the way you did. And this memory shift doesn't just haunt her, it humbles her, and it begins to chip away at the narrative she created to justify her choices, because now she has to admit to herself that she lost a man who was not perfect, but present, not flawless, but faithful. And in a world full of masks and digital connections, your authenticity begins to shine in her mind like a light she never appreciated when it was guiding her. And that's when she starts to test the waters. Indirectly at first, a comment here, a like there, maybe a shared memory she knows you'll see, but all of it is her way of checking if you still think of her the way she now thinks of you. But the truth is, you've grown, and the version of her that exists in your mind now is not the fantasy she wants you to remember, but the reality you finally woke up to. The disrespect, the emotional manipulation, the way she made you question your worth while expecting you to be her emotional sponge. And while she's lost in nostalgia, you've built clarity. And this is the part she never planned for, because she expected to be remembered as unforgettable. But now she's the one doing the remembering. And what hurts the most is realizing that you've moved on without needing closure, without announcing your exit, without asking for permission to stop caring. And as she scrolls through her gallery or hears a song that once belonged to both of you, she feels that emptiness not as absence, but as consequence. And she begins to see you not as the man she left, but as the man she can't get back. And that shift forces her to confront what it means to lose a man of value in a time where value is confused with popularity, where attention is currency. And now she has to live with the fact that the man who once prioritized her above all else now prioritizes himself, his growth, his mission, and she's no longer part of the picture. And no matter how much she glamorizes the past, The truth is, she broke something that couldn't be put back together. Not because you hate her, not because you want revenge, but because you finally realized that staying loyal to someone who constantly made you feel replaceable was the greatest betrayal of yourself. And now your peace doesn't need her chaos to feel alive. Your journey no longer includes detours through emotional minefields, and your heart has learned to protect itself, not with walls, but with standards. And as she remembers you, the version she now sees in her mind is the man she always said she wanted, but never chose. The man she claimed didn't exist. The man she pushed away thinking he'd wait forever. And that realization sits heavy on her chest, because you weren't just a chapter in her story. You were the lesson. And while she remembers how you held her when she cried, how you defended her when she wasn't in the room, how you sacrificed your own needs just to see her smile, you remember the nights you couldn't sleep because you were trying to figure out why someone you gave everything to made you feel like you weren't enough. And the clarity you gained in that pain now guards your future, because you've built yourself from pieces she tried to shatter, and in doing so, you've become unrecognizable to her. And that's what hurts the most, that she had you in your raw, honest, loyal form, and chose to gamble it for attention, for momentary excitement, for emotional games. And now she sees you smiling in your new season, and it burns, not because she hates you, but because deep down, she knows you were real and she was not ready. And while she starts remembering you differently, you're busy becoming someone who no longer needs to be remembered by people who never truly saw you to begin with. Number 4. She performs confidence. She steps out smiling like nothing happened, with her makeup flawless, her captions filled with power quotes she barely understands, wearing empowerment like a costume, because the truth is she's not strong, she's scrambling, but the illusion of strength is the only shield she has left now that your attention has been pulled back from her orbit. And so she floods her feed with group photos, pretending to be too busy to notice you're gone, curating a version of herself that looks untouchable, unbothered, above it all, while inside she's sitting with the echo of the space you used to fill. But she can't show that to the world because the same pride that pushed you away won't allow her to admit she feels your absence, not because you were perfect, but because you were consistent. And in a world that rewards fakery and filters, your raw presence was the last real thing she had. And now that you're no longer reacting to her bait, her performance goes into overdrive, and she starts doing everything for the feed, not for her fulfillment. Because what's the point of pretending to be over someone if that person isn't even watching? And so every post becomes a question disguised as a flex. Are you still watching? Are you still thinking about me? Do you regret leaving? Do you miss this glow I now present to the world? But what she doesn't understand is that the man you're becoming doesn't scroll backwards, because you're not watching, you're working, you're building, you're healing. Not to prove anything to her, but because you finally realized that your time, your energy, your heart are not tools to be used for someone else's validation. And when she realizes her usual tactics no longer draw you in, she'll switch strategies, maybe start talking about self-love, about finally finding peace. But you know that peace doesn't live in performance, it lives in solitude. And true peace doesn't seek applause, it just is. And what she's doing now is auditioning for relevance in your life again, hoping that the new image she's crafted is shiny enough to make you forget the reality of who she was when you needed her most. But you've developed the clarity to see beyond the highlight reel, beyond the staged smiles, and you remember the emotional distance that grew even while you sat next to her. The way she used silence as punishment, the way she treated your vulnerability like weakness, the way she tested your loyalty while giving you nothing to hold on to. And now her confidence is a costume stitched together by attention. But attention fades, and what's left when the audience stops clapping is insecurity, because performing strength is easy when the crowd is watching. But true confidence doesn't need an audience. It needs accountability, and that's what she avoids, because she doesn't want to sit with the reality that she had a man who showed up in the dark, who gave when he had little, who stayed when he felt unseen, and threw it all away chasing aesthetics over essence. And now she wants to wear empowerment like an accessory, hoping you'll see it and come back. But you don't chase performance anymore, because you've learned that clout doesn't equal character, and loud doesn't equal loyalty, and her performance no longer affects you, because the version of you she hurt no longer exists, and you're not bitter, you're just better. Not because you faked it, but because you faced it. You faced the pain, the betrayal, the lies you told yourself about who she was. And now that you've outgrown that season, her performance becomes background noise to your progress. And every time she posts something provocative or insightful, it's not to show you she's healed. It's to test if she still has access to the part of you that used to care. And when she gets no response, no view, no message, she starts to feel the weight of her choices, and the silence she hears now isn't yours. It's the silence inside her that she can't cover with likes and filters, because deep down she knows she lost someone who was real in a world full of facades, someone who would have built with her if she valued building instead of performing. And now her life is a highlight reel with no substance, full of moments that look good but feel hollow, and that's the prison of performance. Everything looks perfect from the outside, but nothing feels real on the inside, and while she runs from reflection, you run toward discipline. While she crafts captions, you craft routines. While she gains followers, you gain focus, because you're not seeking to be seen, you're seeking to become, and every day that passes without you reacting chips away at the character she's pretending to be, because you're no longer the man who gives energy to theatrics. You're the man who builds legacy, and her. Pretending doesn't disturb your peace anymore, because you've learned the art of moving on with grace, not because you don't care, but because you care too much about who you're becoming to go back to what nearly broke you. And if she ever stops performing, if she ever chooses to sit with the truth of who she was and how she treated you, she might find the clarity she once avoided. But by then you won't be reachable, not because you're cold, but because you've grown beyond her reach. And that's not ego, that's evolution. Number 5. Her ego cracks. Slowly. She doesn't wake up one day overwhelmed with regret. It creeps in slowly, like a quiet voice she tries to mute with distractions. And at first, she denies it, brushes it off, tells herself you'll be back eventually, that you're just going through a phase, that your silence is temporary, and your absence is a game. But when days turn into weeks and weeks turn into months, and she still hasn't heard from you, she begins to question the certainty she once stood on, and that questioning becomes uncomfortable because it demands honesty. She's not used to facing, because to admit she's feeling your absence means she has to confront the reality that she caused it, and her ego won't let her accept that truth right away. So instead, she doubles down on pride, pretends she doesn't notice the shift, posts even more, laughs louder, stays out later, trying to bury the quiet panic that grows every time she doesn't hear from you. And the irony is, the version of you she thought would always be waiting is now the version of you that doesn't even check her updates. And that shift in your behavior begins to haunt her, not because she wants you back necessarily, but because she no longer has the safety net of knowing you're emotionally available to her at all times. And now that safety net is gone, replaced by silence and absence and improvement she can't quite explain. And when she talks to mutual friends, hoping for an update on your emotional state, hoping to hear you're struggling or you're still thinking about her, and instead hears that you're focused, calm, doing better, maybe even seeing someone new, it cuts deeper than anything she'll admit, because in her mind you were supposed to collapse without her, but instead you've risen, and now her internal story is no longer matching reality. And that contradiction cracks the armor she used to protect her ego, and each memory becomes heavier, not nostalgic, but accusatory. And she starts to realize that maybe the way she handled things wasn't as strong or justified as she told herself. And those memories are now tied not to love, but to shame, because she begins to see that her detachment, her manipulation, her emotional games were not signs of power, but signs of fear. And that fear cost her the one man who gave her stability. And while she may have flirted with 10 new faces, none of them hold her emotionally the way you did. None of them make her feel safe in her chaos the way you did. And the same chaos that you once helped her navigate is now consuming her from the inside out. And still, she won't say it. Not yet, because to say it would be to admit fault, and that would require vulnerability, something she spent years avoiding. And so she lingers in denial, in pretense, in halfway efforts to get your attention without ever crossing the line that exposes her true emotional state. But the cracks are there, and they're getting wider, and it shows in her inconsistency, in her reactions, in the way her confidence falters in private, in the way she overthinks simple things now. And it's because the certainty of your presence used to be a drug she was addicted to, and now she's going through withdrawal, and withdrawal is ugly, confusing, painful, and the worst part is, no one can see it except her, because she built her identity around being the one in control, the one who never gets attached, the one who always has options, and now she's attached to the memory of a man who no longer exists for her. And the ego that once made her feel powerful now feels like a prison, because it won't let her reach out. It won't let her apologize. It won't let her admit that she was wrong. And so she sits, pretending, watching, hoping you'll slip up and reach out again, hoping she still holds a piece of you. But each day that passes without your attention is a hammer to that ego, and the cracks deepen until it's no longer a matter of pride but survival, because she begins to realize that letting you go didn't just cost her love, it cost her the last place she felt emotionally seen, and that loss reshapes her understanding of what it means to be loved. And she starts comparing everyone to you, starts measuring new connections against the version of you that showed up without question, and every comparison leaves her empty, and it's in that emptiness where the real regret lives, not in the loss of you, but in the loss of who she got to be when she had access to your presence, your calm, your commitment, your vision. And now she watches from a distance as you grow beyond the version of yourself she once knew. And in that distance, her ego slowly dies. And with its death comes the truth she tried to avoid, that she wasn't ready for the man she claimed she wanted. And now she's haunted by the realization that someone else gets the version of you she never believed would exist without her. Number 6. She wants you, but won't say it. She doesn't send the text. She doesn't make the call. She doesn't show up on your doorstep asking for another chance. Not because she doesn't want to, but because the shame of admitting she misjudged your value is heavier than her desire to reconnect. And so she keeps it inside, hides it beneath pride, disguises it as empowerment, all while her heart whispers questions she refuses to say out loud. And every time you cross her mind, she fights the urge to reach out, to check in, to say something, anything, because deep down she still wants you, not for what you used to be, but for what you've become, for what she's now watching from a distance. A man who doesn't need her, a man who's thriving, focused, intentional. And that reality hurts more than she expected, because when she left or pushed you away, she told herself you'd crumble, that your world would fall apart without her. But you didn't. You built a new one, a better one, and now she wants to be part of it. But she can't admit that. Not to you, not even to herself. Because to do so would mean admitting that she made a mistake, and that mistake is something she tries to downplay with logic, with rationalizations like, he was too emotional, or I needed space. But the truth is, she wasn't ready for a man who held up a standard she couldn't meet. And now she sits with that failure alone, still posting, still pretending, still watching, and it eats at her that she can't just say what she feels, because her ego won't let her and your silence won't break. And so she's stuck, longing for a connection she destroyed, desiring a man who's outgrown the version of himself that tolerated her emotional instability. And every moment she hesitates is another moment she watches someone else capture your attention, your growth, your focus, and that stings in ways she never admits. And the worst part for her isn't that you're gone, it's that you're unreachable, that no matter what she does now, she can't recreate the past. She can't bring back the man who used to wait on her messages, who used to ask what was wrong, who used to put her first even when she didn't deserve it. And now that man is disciplined, silent, respected, driven, and it terrifies her that someone else will benefit from what she lost, that the man she once dismissed has become the type of man she now wishes would walk back into her life. But instead of doing something about it, she waits, hoping you'll notice her efforts, her hints, her silent cries. But the version of you she knew would have picked up on those cues is gone, replaced by someone who no longer responds to games, and she can feel that. And it makes her crave your presence even more, not because of love, but because she now sees the value she missed. And the silence you maintain becomes the loudest message she's ever received, and in that silence she starts to spiral, not openly, but internally, and she replays everything she did wrong, every conversation where she could have been softer, every moment she could have said, "Thank you," instead of pointing out what you didn't do. And those moments weigh on her, silently, relentlessly, and yet still, she says nothing, because saying something would mean facing the version of herself she spent years hiding from. And that fear of being exposed as the one who failed to recognize greatness keeps her frozen, hoping you'll make it easy, hoping you'll reach out so she doesn't have to. But when you don't, when you stay grounded, present, and unavailable, she begins to accept what she feared most, that you're gone, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And now all she has are memories of a man who changed in front of her and left without looking back. And she wants you still, but wanting is not enough to undo what's already been done. You were never meant to find this knowledge, because a grounded, stoic man who sees through the lies is dangerous to a world built on control and manipulation. That's why the Stoic Relationship Blueprint isn't just a book. It's a weapon, a guide, a mirror to everything they never wanted you to see. It's filled with raw, timeless Stoic principles that'll immediately reshape how you handle relationships, betrayal, emotion, and power. And now it's available as an audiobook, so you can feed your mind while walking, running, or building the life she never thought you'd have without her. This changes everything. Comment, "I'm done playing small," if you're ready to reclaim yourself. Like this video, subscribe, and share this with a man who needs saving before it's too late. The book and audiobook are linked in the comments. Own it forever. Never beg for peace again.